Hi guys, my name is Johnny. I'm the owner of Mock Wheel Portland. I am an e-bike dealer and an e-bike mechanic. I've been doing this for about 6 years now. Today, I wanted to talk about what happens when good companies go bad, meaning what happens when they go bankrupt, what happens when they get bought, what happens when they just disappear. I've seen it a lot. I've actually experienced it with multiple companies. Finally, I'll give you a couple of pieces of advice I would use when buying an e-bike or making your first purchase, whether it's used online or from a dealer. All right, so first I'll tell you a couple of quick stories about some companies that I will not name because I don't know if there's any need to name them, but a couple of companies I was a dealer for. Before I was a Mock Wheel flagship store owner, I had multiple brands. I used to carry one wheels, I used to carry scooters, I used to carry skateboards, all electric, all different manufacturers. I had different bikes from different companies. I've used some American-made bikes. I've worked with a couple of companies that had a very limited distribution in America. And I can tell you a couple of things that happens when a good company goes bad. Number one, they will be very difficult to get a hold of. So if you are hearing something about your company, or let's just say there's a weird message on their phone that says that they are under new ownership, that is usually not a good sign. And this is what happened to me, and I'll give you a perfect example. Recently, this summer, one of my customers brought it back with a very significant issue. I called the manufacturer because it was still under warranty, and I got that message. Please be patient, we are going under new ownership. That is not a good sign. That usually means that the company is having some serious financial issues, and that it's either way, it's not a good sign for you as a consumer, because you probably will not get any access to any technician or any expert anytime soon. What to do when that happens? You can take it to a dealer, you can go online and do research online, you can go into forums. I remember when Boost boards went out of business, we never sold them, but we had a lot of people who came in and wanted to see if we could service their boards. And what happened was Boost sold most of their warehouse to a holding company, or a warehouse holding company called Boosted USA, and I would refer them to this new company who was basically selling retrofitted parts to existing Boost board owners. That was the best case scenario for somebody like that, because that means that there still are parts, and if they wanted to extend the life of their product, they can probably go and buy a battery or a new deck or whatever or some wheels, whatever that was specific that they were looking for, there was still access to buy it. That's the best case scenario. In this case, with a product that was still under warranty, there was no one to call. So I think it happened in June. I didn't get anyone on the phone, I didn't get anyone on the phone for over 6 months. I ended up buying the product retail out of pocket, the part, and installing it, and by the time anyone ever reached back out to me, it was October, and I had already moved on from that situation. And of course, I wanted to keep my customer happy, and I didn't want to tell them that there was no hope and that they had to go figure it out themselves. We stand behind almost everything we can. And so giving them a product that was working, especially because I had seen that they hadn't really used it very much and it was pretty much in brand new condition, I wanted to make sure that they had something that was workable. Meanwhile, as I had been talking to the company, I tried to return the product. They said I had to pay for shipping and that they would inspect the item when it was back to make sure that, basically giving me a bunch of precursors to why they weren't ever going to refund me. And then I actually got an email back from somebody else, and they said there was no way they were going to refund me either way. It didn't matter if the part was working or not. And this is what happens. This is probably the worst case scenario when a good company goes bad or a good company goes bankrupt, is that the company who's buying them is actually not going to buy them for, or not going to carry their warranties, or they're not going to let existing warranties roll over, or they might not even be offering any warranties at all anymore, because they're going to piece out what's the remainder in the warehouse for pennies on the dollar, and that means they are in the business of getting things out, not taking things back. So that was the worst case scenario, and it's unfortunate because, especially now with Rad Power going into that sort of bankruptcy, I think they were just bought by Life EV. It's tough because if that company sees that that the margins are too slim, or that they can't salvage some of the product lineup, They are basically just going to take the parts, take the technology, and as a consumer, you're going to be completely out of luck when it comes to finding parts. And that is also a worst case scenario. And that's pretty much what's happening to RAD as far as I'm under the impression of it. I actually carried a company that was bought out by Life EVs. And I remember having another issue and having to call them, and it was in the middle of the takeover. And I remember they basically told me the product is not going to be covered. And it was one of my personal products, and I was using it, and it had a motor issue. The motor was made by a third party. They basically told me go to the third party, even though I bought the product wholesale from them. So I ended up doing that. I ended up going to the third party. This is another one of the things I always tell people about. There is no guarantee. Even with a company that seemed like it was on top of the market and it wasn't going anywhere, Rad Power obviously might be really difficult to find parts for. And I would recommend anyone, if you have a Rad Power and you're thinking about getting a part, or you're thinking about you might need a part in the future, go try to find what they have online. Go try to find a controller. Go try to find an extra battery if you really like the bike. That's going to extend the life and the trajectory of how you're going to be able to use that bike by 5-10 years. So here are my 3-4 pieces of advice for buying a bike online or buying a bike from a dealer. If you are worried about the company going under, buy a second battery at purchase, buy a second controller at purchase. Even if you're worried about a motor, buy a second motor. Those are things that you can buy at checkout to have as backups, and they will extend the life of your bike quite a ways, especially a good battery. Good batteries, if you take care of them, will last you 5 to 8 years. If you can get 5 to 8 years out of your first battery and then go to your second battery, that automatically makes the bike more resellable, and it will give you peace of mind going forward. And that's one thing I always preach about, buying a second battery at checkout. If you have any doubts in your mind about what you're buying a second battery or even buying a second product, especially if you're buying overseas, buying a secondary product, if you're buying a scooter that you really like, and it's a high-speed, very rare product, buy the second scooter, because you're almost likely going to need parts. You're almost likely going to need to be able to troubleshoot something on your own. And so buying a secondary product, if you're buying it, especially if you're buying overseas, that is going to solve tons of problems for you, because you'll be able to troubleshoot with the parts that you have on the second one. You'll be able to use the secondary product as a backup. You'll be able to use it as if you want to go with a friend. But when it comes down to the bottom of it, you're actually going to have a way to piece together and troubleshoot any issues that you might have, whether they're electronic or not, without a technician, because you'll be able to plug in and test things on your own. So number one, buy a backup unit. So if you're buying a scooter online and you are worried about that servicing a scooter, buy a second one. That'll give you parts. It'll also allow you to troubleshoot. If you're buying a bike, buy a second battery. That is a great way to extend the life of your existing bike by 5 to 8 years. If you are buying something online, buy a whole set of parts so that you don't have to worry about parts in the future. Because how many times have I had people come in and said, oh, I bought this weird brand and now they don't exist. We're taking such a risk with some of these products that there is not a lot other than other users out there in the United States and Canada that are gonna have something that they might be able to trade or they might be able to offer you. And that goes for advice, that goes for technical support, and that also goes for parts. And the most important thing I always tell people to look for when they're buying something online is parts. If you can tell that there's parts available on their website or on their web store, your life is going to be easier down the road. Now, if they disappear, that doesn't matter, because you're not going to have parts anyway. So another reason is you can go to a dealer like me. Even, for example, even those customers that I had to track down parts for and I end up purchasing them out of pocket, I would rather do that and get them back on the road and know that I did my due diligence and keeping my reputation intact than leave them hanging out to dry. And that is what a lot of dealers will do. They're not going to say they have a warranty, and then when you bring it back inside the warranty time, they should not trash their reputation by saying, oh, sorry, the company is under administration or whatever, and so we can't do anything. they're going to try to find a way to get you the parts. And as far as being a dealer and being someone who's seen a lot of the e-bike industry and some of these manufacturers who don't want to do some of these things and what it really is like pulling teeth with some of these companies, we will find the teeth to pull. And we'll make sure that our customers are getting their product, because if we don't really have another choice, we need to keep our reputation. We also don't want to get into some sort of legal dispute with a customer who's saying, oh, I bought this from them, they said they were going to cover it, and now they're not. So you just want to avoid those things. That's one of the reasons why you always want to buy from a dealer. And one of the reasons why, and again, one of the reasons why I became a mock wheel dealer, because I was tired of going scavenger hunting through these companies and trying to figure out who was responsible for what when I bought built unit from one company. I don't need it. I shouldn't have to go through all these other companies. So that's why we went with Mock Wheel, who fabricates and does most of their manufacturing in-house. Easy for us to call one person, one email. I can get the part if I don't already have it. That is a great selling point, but it also makes me an expert at what I do. And I can troubleshoot a lot of these problems and learn and teach and create a knowledge base for a lot of our employees. And they in turn will be able to translate to the customer, and fix things over the phone, fix things on the spot, and just add a sense of trust and reputation building to the product itself. And that's one of the reasons why you buy from a dealer. That's one of the reasons why I carry this brand. And those are all reasons why buying something overseas, direct to consumer, is risky, and buying online in general is risky, because if you come to a point where there's a message on the phone that says we're being under new ownership or we're changing hands, those dealers are going to save your ass. And so if you get in that situation, you bought something online, you are going to essentially just have to wait. And in my case, I waited for 6 months. In the one that went to life, it was like 6 months turnaround time. I finally got it warrantied. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like, I took a course, I became a certified mechanic. Then I shipped the product back because it still had an issue. The product manufacturer said, I forgot to send the lid back. It was weird. It just takes forever. So definitely buy from a reputable brand, a reputable company, and a reputable dealer. Those are the three easiest things. If you're buying online, get a secondary unit or get a backup battery, backup controller, backup motor at purchase. That'll always help. And just look for the parts online. If you can find them, you find them. All right. Well, thanks for watching. I will try to post some more videos as I can. We've had a really busy winter. We're actually in the process of moving one of our locations, and we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to build our expertise with this company, and we're continuing to spread the Mock Wheel product and the Mock Wheel brand, and we're really excited for the spring. So I will keep making some videos, and I hope you guys enjoy, but be tuned for some more. I'll have some more tidbits and some more advice for people who are thinking about making a first purchase. All right, thank you so much.